Hey all! In this video, I'm going to show you some basics of outdoor watering. Some things that you might take for granted and some things that you may not have thought about, but I'm hoping that this is going to help you anyway. One of the most important things about outdoor watering is that you know that rainwater is actually best. If at all possible, you can get some rainwater barrels and hook them up to one or two of your gutters and use that particular water when you have to water in your new plants at least to get them off to a good start. When we do installs, I do give a watering plan and directions, but then I realized I was not very specific about the size of the plants. So if you look at these different containers, that means the roots are at the very bottom of each pot. And so you want to make sure the water goes down from the top to get all the way to the bottom. And you can do this by watering the plant outside of the garden before you put it in, and you water it long enough that the roots come out. And then you can kind of take a notice about how long it takes you to get that water to come out. Oftentimes what I'll do when I water, because I've done it for so long, is I will just count. And I will just be at each plant. If it's a small plant that gets a very little bit amount of water, there you go, you can see that coming out the bottom now. If it's a large plant, I just have a lot of water. So, but I will, and when I'm in the garden with them, they're already in the ground. I know this by now, but a lot of new gardeners don't. But I'll actually sit there and count. And so when I start pouring the water, if it's a small plant, I might just say like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then move on to the next plant. Now, if it's a larger pot, it's going to take a lot longer. That one there was actually at half strength because it was difficult to film and pour the water. Again, pour until you see the water actually come out the bottom of the pot. And you can practice this at home until you kind of get the hang of it. And then you'll use the same technique, or you'll think about what size pot do you think the plant was in before it actually went into the ground. See, there you go. The water's coming pouring right out. And that's fine. And especially for your new plants, they're not going to need a lot of water every single day. So what I tell people is to water each new plant once a day for a week, for that first week at least. And when I'm talking about watering, I mean like this. Just barely. You don't have to have a whole lot of hose. You don't have to have a whole lot of water. And again, use rainwater if possible. There it goes, coming out the bottom. So you know you've reached the roots. And so you're going to water once a day for a week. And by that time, after a week's time with this much water, not a whole lot, this much water every day, you will likely see new growth on top of the plants. You'll either see new flower buds or you'll see new leaves. And when you see new growth, that means that there are roots growing underneath the soil, which is really cool. That's what you're trying to promote. You're trying to promote the roots growing into the soil so that they can get all the nutrients from the surrounding soil and they can establish themselves. And then at some point, you're not going to have to water them every day. The other part is that you want to water, once it's in the ground, you're going to water thinking about, okay, it's a large plant. The roots might be deep. I might have to water for a long time. So here's some that I put in, I think a couple months ago, new, and that was the size pot that they were in. So I'm not going too much, just enough. And then I also circle around the exterior of the plant to make sure that the surrounding area is also wet. You notice from some of these that are taller, I'm not going to go from the top down, like I'm not going to water the leaves. I just want to water at the root level. So the watering doesn't have to be hard. I do promote using rainwater if at all possible. If you don't have rain barrels that catch the water, see now it's going to be all the way down to the bottom. Then get some 5-gallon buckets when it's going to rain really hard and start collecting that water, or put a bunch of buckets outside and put it into one section. And so here's a container. I'm going to use the same kind of principle. 1, 2, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then kind of move on, because these pansies are just little plants. They're not huge. They don't need a whole lot of water, especially because it's not that warm anymore. But they do need some. And see, I'm at the bottom of that one, not on top of the plant. I don't water the roots of that sage. And when the temperatures are really low, when they get lower, there is less humidity in the air as well. So the plants can dry out really fast if they don't get that watering. And once again, I think rainwater is best to use because it will be the same temperature as the outside, and it actually has what the plants need. Second best would be city water, and you can fill up some watering jugs with city water and set them outside for at least 24 hours so that the chlorine will dissipate from the water, and then the water will be the same temperature as the air in the ground. And at this time of year, I would actually water in the afternoon, maybe about 3 or 4 o'clock, because the soil has warmed up a little bit, and so has the water. So you don't want to shock them with too cold of water, and you don't want to shock them with too warm of water. You want to make sure that it's about the same, and you're going to do pretty well. If you have well water, check to see that it doesn't have that orange, you don't get the orange stains like from iron, or check to see that you don't have the kind of water that comes into the house that's softened, because it has a lot of salt in it. Your best bet, if possible, would be to run a separate hose directly from the well, because it's groundwater. And hopefully by watching this, you got a little bit better clarification about how much to water each plant when you first put them in. Let me know if I can help you out. Contact me today. Thanks.